What will eventually happen if you demonize ordinary people who are afraid of Muslim terrorism, or even just anyone who has a legitimate concern about Sharia law creeping into our society, changing our culture? What if you defame ordinary citizens as racists or Islamophobes just for criticizing Islam the way we're supposed to be able to criticize any other religion? What if hundreds, then thousands, then maybe millions of people are told to shut up, but their real concerns aren't dealt with? What if mass Muslim migration is still allowed if terrorism continues to grow? Well, if ordinary people can't protect themselves using the system, using our democratic tools, our peaceful means, if the politicians won't help, and the press and police and prosecutors, in fact, if they cover things up as they're doing, maybe other less liberal groups of people will fill the gap, like these people. This is an obscure terrorist group called the Corsican National Liberation Front, or FLNC. They want the island of Corsica in the middle of the Mediterranean. They want it to be free from France. It's an obscure fight. They want the Corsican language and culture and local autonomy. It's not religious. It's more territorial, sort of an Italian versus French thing. That's the best I can figure. But they're terrorists, this group, no doubt about it. They've blown things up in French government buildings in Corsica and in France mainly. They're criminals. They're terrorists. They're in the middle of a ceasefire right now. But one of the FLNC factions, they issued a public statement last week, not against the government of France, with whom they're terrorizing, but rather against Muslim terrorists. They sent a message to a Corsican newspaper saying if any Islamic State attack happens on their island, it would prompt, quote, a determined response without any qualms. The aim of the Salafists, that's what they call Muslim radicals, is clearly to install ISIS policies here, and we are prepared for it. Your medieval philosophy does not frighten us, unquote. But then they urged calm in the face of barbarity, and they called on all Muslims of Corsica to reject terrorism and turn any radicals amongst them, turn them in. Quote, if Islamic states take actions on our soil, we will manage to defeat them only together, unquote. So let me be clear here. A Corsican terrorist group is warning a Muslim terrorist group not to try anything on their island, that being the Mediterranean. There are some Muslims in Corsica, and these ethnic Corsican terrorists are trying to sound friendly to them. We can only beat this together, please help us, kind of thing. But I say again, this is a European terrorist group warning Muslims. And I should point out the Corsican terrorists are pretty clear that they blame France for this problem, French politicians having been totally unable to stop the problem. And you know what? I bet plenty of ordinary Corsicans were pleased with this, maybe even supported it, because the French, like every other Western European country, they have failed. The French Prime Minister said after the Nice terrorists used a truck to murder 84 people a few weeks ago and wound more than 200, the French Prime Minister said French people will just have to learn to live with terrorism now. Politicians are useless. The media cover things up. The police are either overwhelmed with the scale of the problem or they're politically correct. No one will protect ordinary citizens. So in steps a violent gang saying, we'll do it. And it's not just in Corsica. In Scandinavia, there are vigilantes calling themselves the Soldiers of Odin, patrolling the streets to protect women from being sexually attacked by Muslim migrants. Is that a good development, people taking the law into their own hands? Of course not. Far better for the police to take care of protecting us in accordance with the rule of law, and far better to have a border with real border guards, far better to have judges deport criminals, far better for politicians to speak clearly about Western values. Yeah, that would all be nice, but that's not happening. So at least some people in Scandinavia, and now in Corsica, feel they can't get help from the elites, the establishment, the authority, so they'll take help from anyone else, even gangs, even terrorists. It's like a poor person so desperate for a loan, no bank will help them, that they have to borrow money from the mafia. That's their only alternative to starving. Let me close with a clip of France's leading young politician, a 26-year-old parliamentarian named Marine Le Pen with the National Front Party, who literally joined the French National Guard after the last terrorist attack in France and invited all other young French patriots to do so. Take a listen.
Je dois dire que moi je suis assez admirative d'ailleurs de la sérénité des Français par rapport à ce qui est en train de se passer. Et je pense d'ailleurs que le Front National est aussi un moyen de préserver la concorde. Parce que c'est un moyen, à travers les urnes et à travers la voie démocratique précisément, de pouvoir changer les choses. Alors que si nous n'étions pas là, peut-être en effet y aurait-il beaucoup plus de colère.
Donc pour vous, la guerre civile, c'est si vous n'y êtes pas?
Je pense que la voie politique est une voie précisément qui permet d'éviter la guerre civile. Parce que les gens se font justice eux-mêmes si l'État régalien n'assure plus cette justice.
She's right. The answer right now still is for France to peacefully, democratically change things, fix things, help things, stop things. And she's doing her best, speaking clearly and peacefully and without a mask on her face like those terrorists. She's joining the army, not a gang. But if she fails, if her party fails, if France and Germany and the rest of Western Europe shuts down all official channels and doesn't solve the problem, don't be surprised if another darker solution presents itself to the desperate population. It hasn't been that long since Europe showed the world that side of itself. For the Rebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant. Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.